All right, and welcome to What Had Happened Was with your homeboy Luvva J right here, Jose Gutierrez Jr. It's a very special guest on the show today. It's a real privilege and honor to have him on. He has a supreme mouthpiece, and it ain't stopped for decades on decades as his career just continued to move forward from Mad TV, BET, a myriad of different comedy specials and appearances. And so he started his comedy career, according to the legend, at 14 and has not stopped yet. So we want to welcome to the show Mr. Aries Spears. How you doing, Mr. Spears?
Good, brother. How you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for joining us. I know you're heading up to the Pacific Northwest to be in Tacoma Comedy Club, I believe, on Friday.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, man. I'll be there, I think, Friday, Saturday, and maybe Sunday. I'm not sure the dates completely.
Okay, good. Now, I know you've been to the Pacific Northwest, but have you been to Tacoma? I know maybe you've been to Bellevue and Seattle. How about
yes,
Tacoma?
Sir.
Okay, Tacoma too?
Yeah. No, I've been. This is probably my third or fourth time back there.
Okay. What's your impression of the area when you touch down?
It's very different. Very different. Very laid back. Very quiet. But it's sometimes when you're 44 years old, you need that in your life. So I welcome it. I like it. I like tranquility and peace.
No doubt. Now you grew up. I mean, this is what an amazing story. I mean, I know Chris Rock started at a young age as well. You guys probably sneaking into comedy joints to do your work. Where did you grow up in New York? And let me stop there real quick because I was just watching you. Somebody had you on their show, and somebody mentioned Chicago. And I had known you as being from New York since the 90s when I first learned about you.
Yeah, New York is it, brother. New York is home.
Okay. But is Chicago before New York, or is that just the area?
New York.
Okay. And you started off, you had an appearance on the Apollo, is that correct?
Yeah, I did that when I was 17. 17, the year after I had done Def Jam.
Okay. Wow. With Bob Sumner and everybody. Describe, what were you feeling like? First of all, let me just capture who you are for those who may not know. What part of New York did you come from, Aries?
I grew up on the west side of Manhattan, on the Hell's Kitchen area.
Okay. That's a very multicultural mixed area. At one point it was?
It can be. I was never deep in Harlem or the Bronx or Brooklyn, so yeah, it was a little multicultural. Okay.
And what was that like growing up? What was your daily challenge or daily rising? What was waiting for you outside the door?
I really didn't do much, man. I was a latchkey kid coming up,
Okay.
My father later on in life, once we moved out to New Jersey, decided to become a part of the family. So, I was raised by my mother, and she raised me and my sister alone. So, she worked two jobs, and basically, I was a latchkey kid, man. I went from school to home, and television kind of raised me. So, that's where I honed in on my impressions and my love for entertainment.
Okay. What would you grow up watching? In the late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s.
Yeah, 80s, baby, man. All the cartoons, the classics. G.I. Joe. Thundercats, Voltron, Silverhawks, Bionic Six, and then later in life, Growing Pains, Cosby Show, Facts of Life, Different Strokes. All the classics.
And you threw the Silverhawks in there. A lot of people slept on the Silverhawks.
A lot of people don't know that, man. Silverhawks and Bionic Six, two of the best boy cartoons ever made.
That's dope that you got the Silverhawks in there. When you were growing up and watching G.I. Joe, you mentioned G.I. Joe. I got to get into this G.I. Joe question. I had a chance to interview Flint Dilley, the story writer for G.I. Joe and Transformers. And I asked him this question. Let me ask you, was Destro black?
I'm trying to recall totally who Destro was, but by that name, he sounds black.
Well, let me paint the picture. Destro had the shiny head. He was one of Cobra Commander's.
That's right. Yeah, I give him black, baby.
That's what we thought. And
a man got a platinum dome with a name like Destro. He got to be black.
That's right. No, I asked Clinton. I guess he was supposed to be Scottish as a backstory, but the man who voiced him was actually a black man. So
yeah, and he sounded like a black man. So we'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it. My cousin and I would always be like, "Nah, man, Destro's black." But okay. So you growing up and getting into the different stories, you just described a whole bunch of great TV that you watched. What made you say? Were you in performing arts in school, or how did you get acclimated to?
Oh man, my father was always a fan of movies, particularly comedy. So, I grew up watching Abbott and Costello, and a lot of the Mantan Moreland and Step and Fetch It movies, and a lot of classic black and whites, and then when I got turned on to Eddie Murphy in the '80s doing SNL, man, that's when the seed was really planted, man. He was such a heavy influence on me. I mean, he was a heavy influence on most people, but he really struck a chord with me.
Well, describe that. Thank you for that answer. Describe the era, because one of the questions I have for you is, will there ever be another Richard Pryor or Eddie Murphy? And it was like more than just them as human beings, is my thought about it. But it was like an era, like the '80s era was something we'll just never have again. What's your take on it?
Well, I mean, up into the explosion of Def Jam in the '90s, they only let one Negro per decade in Hollywood shine. So you kind of had Red Fox in the '60s, late '60s. Then you had Richard Pryor, who reigned in the '70s, and Eddie Murphy owned all of the '80s. And then by the time the '90s rolled around, Chris Rock was kind of taking hold. But by that time, Def Jam also happened too. So it kind of bust the door open to let mainstream America know you could have one funny Negro at a time.
Right. That ended and Def Jam popped out. And you went on Def Jam, you said, when you were about 17, 18 for the first
16.
time? 16. Wow. So was that when you had the jean jacket on? I was
yes, sir. That was my Eddie Murphy phase. I had his black leather gloves and the all denim jacket suit. The only reason why I didn't wear all leather is because it had been too obvious.
Right. What made you say this is what I'm going to do? Like, people try something and they get discouraged and quit, but obviously you followed your own success. What was the trigger point when you were like, okay, this is it?
Yeah, I just kind of knew at an early age, man, that I didn't want to go the route of school because I kind of felt like most of that was a waste of time anyway. I mean, even when you stop and think about it, other than basic arithmetic and reading and writing, how much of what you learn in school do you actually apply to life? I mean, why am I learning about ecospheres and hemispheres and, climate, things that go on with the climate and the weather and, different kinds of math that I will never use in life. So I kind of knew early on what I wanted to do, and school never just was sexy to me. So, I like doing what I was doing. I like being in the clubs. I like being around, real raw adults.
Right. And so you kind of grew up quick. You must have been, obviously you're surrounded by everybody older than you.
Yeah.
So was that natural? How did they receive you? Because, some people pick on younger, some people lift up younger. How was it for you?
It was a little bit of both. But, my mother was my main captain, so, she kind of shielded me from all that negativity. You know what I mean? Plus, because I wasn't old enough to be in the clubs by myself. I would just really get in, do my business, and get out. So with her by my side, being my shadow, she kind of protected me from all that nonsense.
Is she one of your heroes?
Can be, and at times she could be one of my villains.
Oh no. Okay. Is she still with us?
Yeah, man, she's here.
Okay. How about your sister?
Yeah, she's here too.
Good. Are they back in New York?
My sister's somewhere in the Midwest, and my mother's in Jersey.
Okay. So thank you. So the story about you beginning the career with Def Jam, how did you even get the call? Like, I know Bob Sumner was one of the scouts and executive producers, but who found you and was like,
Bob was really the founder. He was really the heartbeat of Def Jam. He started it. It was his idea. And then he took it to Stan Latham, who then took it to Russell Simmons, and the rest was history. Bob knew all those comics out of the New York and New Jersey area, so he kind of he was responsible for giving us all our break.
Yeah. Do you think he's given proper tribute for his role?
Of course not.
Okay. Why not?
His name ain't as sexy as Russell Simmons.
Yeah. Does that matter to him, do you think?
I mean, that's a him question. You know what I mean? I don't want to. I can't answer for him on that.
Sure. What would you do? What's the right homage a comedian like you or other comedians who know that they've benefited from his efforts? What should happen for him?
It's hard to say because you can't define somebody else's happiness. What we think he deserves might be different from what he thinks he deserves. So, that would be a good conversation to have with him. As long as he's at peace with what he's attained or hasn't attained, that's all that really matters. I don't think a lot of people in life ever get what they truly deserve, but, again, only you can define your own happiness as far as what that is.
Right. That's a good answer. What was your next break? You obviously went on Def Jam. A lot of people launched out into the stratosphere from Def Jam. Bernie Mac, peace be upon him, and we have Bill Bellamy, Chris Tucker, a whole bunch of people. Adele Givens. What was your next call when they were like, okay, let's upgrade this young man, let's get him on?
I mean, I did a couple of TV joints. Nothing that was really highly successful until I got to Mad TV, and I did that for about 8 years, and then did some voiceover work on a lot of different cartoons. Made my rounds on some TV talk shows and a couple of movies, some notable, some not.
Okay. You think would you have tried anything different? Like, do you feel like your career is exactly where you want it to be?
This is a funny business, man. I always wish I could go back and do some things different because, when you start that young, you kind of learning as you go. So, I've certainly made some mistakes along the way that if I could go back and do them all over again, I definitely would do them different. But, it's a learning process, man. So, the hopeful thing is you can take whatever knocks you're going to take, and when the bell rings, you're still able to come out and answer it.
Right. Well, you're still answering. And did you have a mentor or anybody who like even tried to be in your corner and you kind of brushed them off, or how did that whole scenario go?
You know what? No, not really. I mean, I've had people here and there that might try to give you some advice, but like I said, man, I've been doing this on my own for a minute, so I'm kind of learning as I go. And when you 30 years in, not to say that you know it all, because I don't think you ever know it all. You're always trying to get better, and you can never stop evolving. But I'm still a work in progress.
No doubt. What's your greatest challenge today? Like, what are your greatest challenges approaching the world today, living your life?
Just to really try to take my time and make the right decisions and move slow. And be more calculated, and not try to fall into any traps.
What kind of traps are there waiting for somebody like you? You're very well.
And I'm black in America. There's always a trap. And I'm in show business. Between life and show business, ain't nothing but traps.
Have you encountered any of these issues we're seeing about on TV every day? I mean, I know you have at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, they come and go. They've come and gone.
Okay. What do you do when somebody just tries to straight up play you on an offer? If you know they're giving you a weak offer, but maybe you like the opportunity because it might get you to a better, might propel you somewhere. How do you deal with it?
I let my agent handle it.
Okay. Who's your agent?
I'm with Paradigm. William Rodriguez over at Paradigm.
Nice. And so before, how long have you had an agent? Were you negotiating for yourself at one point?
No, never that. I've always had some sort of representation.
Okay. Now, if you take a look at, you have a very legendary career, having started at a middle school age, junior high. What would you say about your career trajectory now? Like, what do you have in store? What's next? Because you're not done yet. You still have a lot of vigor and a lot of life, and I see your interviews, and I see your mind working in the interview. What's it working on?
Being strategic about what I say.
Well, okay, you have some controversy with some comments and things.
Yeah, I'm just like I said, man. As you get older and you move through life and you move through this business, you just got to be wiser about what you do.
Okay.
And don't fall for any of the traps.
Well, growing up, and I'm not doing a psychoanalysis here, but growing up as a child in New York, pushing your line, were you kind of arrogant to some people, or how did you portray yourself as a youngster? Did you know it all when you were too young, or?
Well, you know how that goes, man. Youngsters always think they know it all, but
right.
Sometimes confidence can be perceived as cockiness.
Uh-huh.
And I think in this business you have to have a large amount of confidence. Otherwise, it'll eat you up,
Yeah. Yeah. Who are some of the comedians that you grew up with and you're like, what happened to so-and-so? They were like, I think of people like Rob McNaughty. I still wonder where he is. I know he does some things here and there, but he was just funny on Uptown Comedy Club to me. But what is there anybody you're thinking like, this person, and this isn't a slight, whatever. This won't even be characterized as that on my show. I'm just
it's hard to say. You always wonder about people, but again, man, people make decisions based off what's best for them.
Sure.
You can scratch your head at how come Cat Williams is not a bigger movie star, or at least on the same level as Kevin Hart, like he should be. You could all the speculation. You could point to whatever his personal problems are, demons may have been. How come Chris Tucker decided to pull a Barry Sanders and not, be in more movies, especially when the iron was hot with the rush hours? But again, you don't know what goes on in people's heads and hearts, man. So whatever decisions people got to make, only they know it.
Thank you. What do you have to say? I've heard some of you do great impressions. I think you do Shaq. And I heard you do one of my favorite comedians I wanted to ask you about, Mr. Paul Mooney. And he is under some terrible allegations. What are your thoughts about that?
That's one of them traps to stay away from.
That's a question to stay away from?
Yeah, that's one of them traps, man.
Okay. Well, I'm not
we really don't know the truth, so we'll see how it play out.
Right. Okay. But I have to ask because he's certainly not somebody to be silent, and this is the first time I've ever heard him. Pretty much, I haven't heard him say anything since then.
Yeah, well, Paul's health is failing him too. So there's a lot going on there.
That's terrible. Okay, he must be almost near in his 80s, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think about this era? Now, look, I'm gonna just say it. I work in sexual assault education, information and prevention, stuff like that. I'm not light on that type of stuff. But what do you think about all these sudden allegations coming out of left field? And this stuff happened. Allegations against Africa Bambaataa, one of my heroes, a real great friend, and others. We see Bill Cosby in prison. Then I see some other people on other news sources are just walking away from abuse of children. So what do you think is behind this kind of barrage all of a sudden on people trying to...
The same thing you think. Come on, black man, it's the same thing you think.
Okay. Do you think it's... Well, okay. Well, I think it's... just to state it out loud, I think it's targeting. I see Harvey, he's walking around free. I'm not really surprised, but it's just right in your face. Like, so what? What you gonna do? And other people aren't.
Yeah, it's a rough game right now, man. You know, that's why you got to be careful about how you step and try to guard yourself best you can, man. Them cameras is always watching.
Do you have any children?
Huh?
You have children?
Yeah.
You do? Well, what kind of wisdom would you impart, not just on your children, but if you knew a young black boy, a brown boy growing up in this country right now, what are some takeaways you want them to have about life, like what they're about to walk through? We haven't solved the issues of our country.
Well, my kids are really young, man, so they not at that point yet.
Okay.
Yeah, they still babies.
Okay. Well, what about, like, let's say there's a young comedian, 18, 17, or a young boy you meet. You know, what would you want him to know?
Move real slow when you talk to the cops.
No doubt. No doubt. What do you think? What else? What else should he know?
That's it, brother. I gotta wrap it up, my man. I got some other stuff I gotta take care of, but thank you for the time, though, brother.
No doubt. We appreciate you. Make sure you check out Aries Spears Friday night, Tacoma Comedy Club this weekend, Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday. We're gonna find out. And thank you very much, Aries. Much love, man. Much success for you in the future as well.
No doubt. And to all the fans out there, don't forget to catch all new episodes of the Spears and Steinberg podcast, a.k.a. The Jew and the Jerk, available through iTunes, Apple, Google Play, Spotify, and SpearsBurg.com.
Yeah. All right. Peace, Aries. Thank you, man.
Thank you for your time, man.
All day. Peace.